Beers and Banter, episode 20. It's a milestone. Just me and Dillsy in the house tonight, so let's rip straight in. Big Dillsy.
Big Red, how are you, mate?
Good, mate. Good. I feel
Back again.
a bit of a catch up this week. We hasn't been just you and me in the studio for a little while, so
Have you missed that, have you?
I have, mate. I have.
Bit of you and I time.
Coming off a bit of a high. We had a big episode last week with Jeff, so I think
That was a good one, wasn't it? Hopefully everyone enjoyed that.
listeners have good response so far. So get into that one if you haven't seen it. I've got a beer for you. Having one?
Yeah, love one, mate. Thank you. How's the weekend?
Not too bad. Fairly quiet.
What have we got here?
I've gone the Four Pines Brewing Company Pacific Ale tonight, so give that a run.
Yeah, that'll do. Got alcohol in it? Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
We haven't got...
Episode 20. Did you think we were going to make it? Woo!
I didn't think we'd be back for a second, but here we are.
That's
we
one.
We haven't got a whole lot to celebrate again this week, mate. Hey, not from a Titan standpoint.
Well, it was a rough weekend for Queensland footy in general. Did the Lions get up yesterday?
Lions had a win. Yep.
I might have to get on that bandwagon.
7 in a row for the Lions.
Suns demolished.
Suns beaten by Collingwood. They started okay in the first quarter, but Collingwood too good.
Are the Pies legit this year? Are they going?
I think the Pies are in a bit of trouble. They've got a lot of injuries. Mason Cox, their big ruckman's just gone down again today. It's been announced, so I think they're in a bit of trouble. They've got no forwards left.
Yeah, righto. We'll get into a bit of AFL with Titans. That was tough to watch.
Yeah, mate. We said off air. It's sort of like we're waiting for the sacking of the coach. You know, and the clubs normally have a win after they sack a coach.
So statistically, you're supposed to sack the coach, come out, win a couple of games.
Doesn't look like happening for us.
No, I think we've leaked 120 or 130 points since Brennan was, well, so all reports are that he quit. So that so I don't know why he'd quit, but he's quit.
Yeah, I mean you think, there's obviously a new coach coming in next year. You think these guys would probably put in a bit of effort, considering. I mean, he's obviously watching the last 5, and he's coming into a club to. Obviously, he needs to make some big changes. So, you'd think some of them are playing for their contract, playing for their future.
Well, I think the hard thing is at NRL, it's at such elite level that it's only a couple of percentage points difference between performing and not. And if you're a team,
be a bit more than a few for us.
Well, the Roosters were clinical yesterday. They
were good.
They look like they're on a training run. Like Philip Sammy. The veteran Josh Morris put 3 tries on him in the first half. Like he dead set should have. I don't know what.
Yeah, I mean it was a combination of us being ordinary, and Roosters being very good. But it's the effort. It's the there's a few tries that were let in, and it was like the guys were just standing there with their arms open, saying, "Come in and score." I mean, it just looks like it's lacking effort.
There were some guys that were putting in, but they're the same guys that always seem to put in.
Yeah.
And then there's other guys that I reckon they're probably not first graders.
And you see, Nathan Peets came out today and said that he's never been beaten like that and needs to have a good hard look at himself, and so do others in the squad.
Yeah.
But it's been like this. The whole year's been like that.
Did Jared Wallace play yesterday?
Yeah.
Philip Sammy, no urgency. So that I know he had to turn, but that ball that got kicked in behind him, Morris was onside by bloody 5 to 10 metres and still beat him to the ball. Like there's just, and I guess where I was getting to before is that you got the Roosters that are chasing down Melbourne for the minor premiership. They probably won't get them, but they're going to be in the final 4 come the end of the season. Titans have probably already booked Mad Monday. And just looking to get to the end of the season without an injury.
No doubt they are. I mean, like we keep saying, there's no effort, there's no intent. It's like they've given up already. which should be the opposite now with only 5 weeks to go before a new coach comes in.
I got in trouble last week from one of our loyal listeners to go easy on Holbrook. He reckons he's the goods. I guess I don't want to be negative about Holbrook. I was saying I didn't really know what he was about, didn't really think that he had the credentials. But as a Titans fan, I 100% want him to go all the way. I want him to be the coach that is Craig Bellamy 2003 that goes on to build a dynasty on the Gold Coast. So I'll be getting behind him. I'll be hoping for his success. I just don't know why we waited so long to move Brennan along, or he quit, or what. I don't know. Whatever happened there, we waited till the season was gone. But you might as well let him finish the season because there's been no improvement over the last 3 weeks. So I don't know what the point is of creating all the headlines and all the furore, and all it does is feed the Sydney media because they just want to keep kicking the Titans while they're down, because while the Titans are down, everyone's forgotten about the fact that there's 9 teams in Sydney and 2 or 3 of them should probably move.
Here we go again, eh?
I'm over it. If you and the only good thing I've seen it from Justin Holbrook already is that how important the Gold Coast nursery is and Northern Rivers is to rugby league. So anybody that lives in Sydney and thinks, they need to give up on the Gold Coast, I can tell you now the AFL aren't going to give up. They're just going to keep pouring money into this region because it's a great nursery. It's the 6th biggest city in Australia. And when you combine that with the Northern Rivers, there's a massive amount of kids playing sport. It's a no-brainer. It's got to stay and it's got to work. So the Sydney media need to stop kicking it while it's down and start thinking about which one of their teams should leave Sydney.
Big red on the rant.
On the burst. I've had enough.
It's disappointing. It's frustrating that the end of the season can't come quick enough.
I've stopped letting the Titans losing affect my weekend because
you just don't watch it.
No, I watched it all the way to the end, and someone said to me today, "Why'd you do that to yourself?" But I watched it all the way to the end. But it doesn't really affect my day-to-day life where it used to. I used to get, the dog would be in the outhouse, and I don't know. It's tough.
As I say, I think the big one to come out of that is I think Roosters, and I said it earlier today, I think Roosters went there with all intent to rack up a heap of points, get their percentage up, and probably play themselves back into form.
I put money on the Titans because I thought that little...
You're an idiot.
They were paying $7.
Yeah, it should have been $12.
It should have been.
But, I think we saw on the weekend, Melbourne and Roosters, just 2 very clinical performances.
Melbourne just put the sword to... So everyone lashes into the Titans. They weren't expected to win on the weekend. The Storm put 40 on the Broncos.
Yeah, but the Broncos probably weren't... Well, they definitely weren't favourite. They probably weren't expected to win. But I think, like I say...
They still think they're a chance at the 8.
Well, yeah. But I think, as I say, what it highlights is that those 2 teams are clearly the 2 best in the comp. And I think... I think Roosters have probably got that extra gear. With what have we got? 6 or 8 weeks to go. I think they've still got that extra gear there to go up a notch when they need to.
Depending on how it all falls, I think Manly are a bogey side there.
Yeah, man.
If they run into the Storm, they seem to have the ability to get up for those guys. So, Rabbits cost us the Jaffa on the weekend. So. Again. They're not maybe they've sort of dropped off my radar.
They got a few injuries and a few out, haven't they? So they at the wrong time of the year. Yeah, Melbourne have now. I think Welsh is out for the rest of the year.
Yeah,
So that's a big out for Melbourne. And then on the other hand, the Roosters have probably got a few to come back in, and
they had 3 or 4 on the sideline on the weekend.
Probably at the right time of the year, they're going to get a few back. So I think. In my opinion, they're probably the team to beat at the moment.
Cowboys.
Yeah, they're in the same boat. Well, all the Queensland teams. It's
rumblings that Paul Green might exit up there.
Yeah, well,
it's time for a change.
Yeah, he's been there. He's been there a while now. They've obviously lost JT this year. And probably no one expected him to probably make the 8.
Yeah.
They've shown promise in a few games, but I think
they were though, because they went to a grand final without him.
Yeah, but they've lost a couple of players since then.
Yeah.
Thurston's one of them, but Yeah, I mean, it's Queensland football. It's we were just saying earlier, outside the lines, it's been a bit of a shit year for all the other Queensland sides.
Yeah.
All going to miss the 8.
Yeah, wow. If the
When was it?
Broncos missed the 8, I don't know when that happened, when there was no Queensland, what's basically all Sydney teams and Melbourne in the 8s at the moment.
Yeah.
So people in Sydney are probably going, up yours,
Stick it up your arse, Red.
Big Red. We don't even need you in the comp. Yeah, I'll cop that because we're struggling.
Yeah, so, but looking forward to this weekend, a couple of ripping games. The top 4 all play each other.
Oh,
So I think Roosters play Canberra.
who you got?
Roosters,
Draw?
Canberra, and Melbourne play Manly. Is it Melbourne Manly again?
No, Manly got the Warriors.
Melbourne Rabbits, maybe.
What about this for a barn burner? Dragons, Titans. Loser leaves the country.
Melbourne and Rabbits?
Roosters, Raiders.
Yeah.
Rabbits, Storm.
Yeah, Sunday. So 2 ripping games on Sunday.
Big Arvo Sunday afternoon.
So the top 4 all going at it. So looking forward to that.
What about before we move off the NRL? Who are the champions kidding voting off ET, off Survivor?
Yeah, I didn't see that.
They're kidding themselves.
First I've heard of it.
Heck, you don't watch Survivor?
No.
Well,
I haven't watched it this year.
what were you watching last night?
Cricket.
Yeah, but it's,
Ashes.
yeah, had that started yet? What time's it start?
And I watched the end of the Lions game before that.
No, I'll let you off
We
there.
do a podcast on Monday, so I sort of watch a bit of sport.
What's the podcast about?
Oh, I don't know. I'll send you the link.
It should be about TV shows. It'll be easier. I love Survivor. It's good. It's a good show. What AFL? Have we got anything to this week? Did they play on the weekend?
Yeah, they did. There's, I mean, the Lions, as we said, had another win, 7 in a row for the Lions. So I think they're equal top now. Second, but equal top on points, just percentage behind. As we mentioned, Collingwood beat the Suns, but I think they're about to hit the brick wall with injuries catching up to them. Geelong, surprise defeat over in Perth to Freo.
So West Coast is sitting there with the Lions.
West Coast sitting pretty at top, yeah. I mean, it's massive for Brisbane. If Brisbane can finish second...
Oh, they're equal. So Geelong, West Coast and Lions are all on 56 points.
That's what I just said, I think. Yeah.
We didn't include West Coast in
that. So, if Brisbane can finish second, means they get a home final.
Oh, the Gabba will be rocking.
So home final at the Gabba, and if you go on and win that, you get a home preliminary at the Gabba. So it's
big.
From here in, the next 4, whatever's left, 4 rounds for the Lions is massive. You basically got 2 home games and you're into a grand final. And
the Suns could make it
well, it's pretty much lock and loaded for Suns, Titans, Gold Coast, double, wooden spoon.
The Titans could win a couple and get off the bottom.
Oh.
We've got Saints this week, St George.
Yeah,
we'll give it to them.
Just lost by 60.
We'll bounce back this week.
Getting worse.
Stick with them.
Yeah,
we'll come good. I've been saying it for 20 podcasts now. Yeah, righto.
Yeah, so the AFL's same general. I think they got 1 less week to go. The final 8's not completely lock and loaded yet, but still could be a few changes around 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 even. But yeah, that the West Coast, Brisbane. I give Brisbane a chance. Geelong, obviously, and
is it wide open? Do you reckon? It's not.
I've got it narrowed down to 4. Well, I've got it narrowed down to 3 teams.
Yep.
With Lions as potential 4th, but Geelong, West Coast, Richmond, and Richmond for me are the ones that are coming good at the right end of the year.
Yeah, right.
Brisbane, obviously, if they can jag second and sneak a couple of home finals,
that'd be massive.
They're playing pretty good footy. So they play Geelong, I think, not this week, the following week up at the Gabba. So that'll be They play the Suns this week, so they should win that. They'll go into the Geelong game with 8 in a row, and that'll probably be that'll be the test to see how they're travelling.
Oh, go Lions!
Yeah.
And you mentioned it before, the cricket. I didn't sleep last night.
How good is it?
So I went from Titans into family movie. What do we watch?
Survivor, probably, by the sound of it.
And then, bit of Survivor, bit of The Block, flicking between the Ashes, into the Formula One, back into the Ashes. It was a big night. I was struggling this morning.
It's going to be a great night tonight. Day 5.
Big night for the GOAT. Nathan Lyon's got a rip and tear tonight.
Yeah, he does. I mean, it looks... Well, yesterday looked like the deck had flattened out a bit for the quicks.
Yep.
There's plenty of scuff marks down either side for Lyon to land it in and get a bit of turn. You wouldn't think... You'd think England are probably just now trying to save it. You wouldn't think they can make 380 in a day.
Do you reckon they'll even have a crack?
You'd like to think so. But
They got wickets in hand, I guess.
Yeah, they do, but they wouldn't want to lose a few early. I mean, it's funny how it's turned on its head. It was only 8 o'clock yesterday. The Aussies were probably looking in a bit of trouble and hoping for a draw. And in the space of one day, it's flipped on its head, and the Aussies are looking to win, and England probably hoping for a draw now.
So what about the little Aussie battler, Steve Smith?
Yeah, what a legend.
I'm going to call it now. When is it no longer too soon for him to be captain again? Give me one good reason why he shouldn't be captain.
No, I don't have a good reason, but I think, Payne's probably been there through the whole thick of all this shit that went on.
Yeah.
Probably not the right thing now to come back and take it off of him now that Smith's back. I think there's got to be a bit of a period there where...
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, Payne hasn't got that much longer left in the game anyway.
Maybe it's good for Steve Smith not to have to worry about it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Going out and playing cricket without the worry of being captain, maybe. I don't know. But, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, assuming it's a draw or maybe we sneak a win, whether we go in with the same team in the second test. I mean, Bancroft... Obviously under a lot of pressure.
Bancroft and Warner need to make some runs.
Yeah, I don't think Warner's definitely not under as much pressure as Bancroft.
Yeah.
I'd like to see the selectors stick with whether it's Bancroft, whoever it is, I'd like to see them stick with, that opening pair or that top 3 or 4.
Matty Wade cashed in last night too.
Yeah, I mean, he made 100, so, in the side as just a batsman. It'll be interesting. I mean, it's just amazing to think that we got Stark sitting there not playing. But on the other hand, the quicks have probably done their job.
Are they going to rotate him through, do you reckon, over the course of 5 tests? Or
yeah, I mean...
It is weird that he's not in the team. But
well, obviously, Siddle got picked for this one, and a lot to do with that Edgbaston pitch normally swings a bit.
Patterson made 47.
Yeah, so he's been... And I think he made a few in the first too.
Yeah, that's good.
Pattinson almost plays as an all-rounder.
No, he made a duck in the first.
Did he? Oh, there you go. Was it maybe Cummins made runs? Cummins might have made a few in the first and the second. But
Siddle made 44 in the first.
But Stark goes all right with the bat too.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, it's just interesting that I don't know. He would have been the first picked for the last couple of years, and then all of a sudden he's not even in the squad.
Yeah, and
but that's good. That means we've got a bit of bowling depth back, doesn't it?
Yeah, we do. And they obviously, I think Jimmy Anderson went down early on day 1, so he probably won't play the second test.
Yeah, well, they've battled a bit because of that, I suppose.
Yeah, so I think we're in this series up to our neck now, so it should be good.
Good start.
But yeah, you're right. It's Smith probably.
Maybe he doesn't need to be captain, but geez, I think he served the world's harshest penalty ever.
Yeah, I mean, it's
compared with other captains that have done similar things.
To come back and cop what he's copped in the crowd this week.
Yeah,
and obviously the heckling and everything else. His mental toughness is just unbelievable. To go and make what's he made 280 runs in a test.
So some are saying he's the best since Bradman. He's made over 6,000 runs and has a average of about 65. Like he's legit.
I think that was his 25th or 26th Test 100.
Yeah,
and he's obviously missed 12 months of his career. So yeah, he's a freak. And to be fair, we probably didn't really see it coming after the World. I mean, this World Cup was fairly quiet.
Yeah.
But on the opposite of that, Warner's World Cup was first class, and he's gone quiet now in the first test. So,
what about this call for that everyone's had enough of the umpires, and they're basically just the Aussies would be happy if they were English umpires? Shouldn't it just be the best?
Yeah, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, so basically, You know, English umpires and Australian umpires are not allowed to umpire the Ashes.
Right.
It's got to be neutral.
Yeah, that's
But
fair enough.
But it means we don't actually have the best umpires in the world. All the best umpires in the world come from Australia or England. So I think it was Alan Border come out and said he'd rather they were English umpires than the ones we've got now because there's that bigger difference in the quality.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just always been that unwritten.
Couldn't it just be one of each?
Yeah, probably.
Anyway.
Good topic. I don't know, but I would have just thought it's always been a neutral umpire.
Yeah, righto. What do you got? You got anything else?
What about
Kyrgios? What about your mate Kyrgios?
Yeah, we said off air. When he actually tries and wants to play, everyone's always known he's had plenty of talent.
Yeah.
I think it's just whether it's his attitude or it's his personality that's just the way he is. But
Well, people are filthy at him because he asked someone in the crowd where to serve the match point, and then went and hugged her afterwards.
it just sums his attitude up, doesn't it?
Is that good for tennis or is it disrespectful? And we've said plenty of times on this show that he's a flog, and we'd rather get behind some of the others. That we said it early on in the back in episode 1 or 2 that is one major win away from the Australia loving him, but he's been a fair dickhead since then. But
there's no doubt he's a dickhead. But you look at Johnny McEnroe, was it his whole career? He was a dickhead, but much loved and legend of the game.
Difference being though, he never tanked. He never. That was a very competitiveness thing. Like
but what I'm saying is, I think McEnroe probably played it up a bit. That whole wild child image. I think McEnroe played along to it as well, and I think Kyrgios probably does a bit too.
Yeah,
there's no doubt Kyrgios has got not issues, but he's different. But I think a lot of times he actually enjoys attention and plays up to it.
I just don't think he cares, but every now and then he needs a little cash injection, so he goes out and plays well.
Yeah, he had a great week. He won some big matches, and some of them were fairly easy. So as I say, there's no doubt he's got talent. Just be good to see him kick on. And what have they got? One major left, US Open, I think.
US Open.
So it'd be good to see him go deep there.
Any golf?
No, it's all started up this week, the playoffs. So Friday morning our time, the FedEx Cup playoffs start. So top 125, and then it gets cut down to 70, down to 30, and then we get our Tour Championship. Is the top 30. And then
is that the one that last year when we started the old road trip, you and me? Was that a different one again?
Can't remember.
What Tiger won?
Tiger won the Tour Championship last year,
yeah.
And then at the end of that, the $10 million is given to the FedEx Cup champion. So playing for a bit of money over the next month or so it should be good.
Bit of cash.
Yeah. Ricardo, no good?
Nah, it was average. He stuffed up his qualifying lap. Bit of interference. Well, he interfered someone else, so he stuffed off his own lap and I think it was Perez. So qualified 18th and then decided to take an engine penalty because it didn't really matter. So he started off the back of the grid.
Yeah.
And he just didn't even look like, they thought they were the best of the rest starting this year, and they're not even close. So he got stuck behind Magnussen there, and he was sort of right up his arse, but he couldn't pass him. Magnussen was sort of moving a fair bit under brakes, but realistically, if they thought they were the best of the rest cars, that he should have been able to fly through the middle of that pack. And he's been saying all year, well, I wouldn't have been any better off at Red Bull this year anyway, but Max has put a couple of good performances together. So Red Bull are flying, and now Verstappen's he's only 7 points behind Bottas and sitting in third and could be a real contender for the championship this year. So he's left that car behind to go to a car that's just not even in the running. So
terrible year.
I'm hopeful he might end up through a get-out clause at Mercedes or Ferrari next season.
Really?
So there's apparently, if one of those teams come knocking, he might have the option in his favour to leave.
Okay.
And there's talk of Vettel potentially retiring, but also Bottas is not in favour at Mercedes, so I think they're making a decision on him soon. So they just go into the summer break now, but I think Bottas is under review, and he had a shocker last night. So there could be a seat at one of those big teams next year. I'm hoping Ricardo gets one of them.
Good. And I didn't see much of the MotoGP, but I hear Jack Miller went okay.
I missed it. No,
Okay.
didn't see it.
Next.
Mate, I think that's about us for the weekend.
Short, sharp and shiny this week.
Yeah, we got a couple of irons in the fire over the next couple of weeks to try and get a couple of big guests in. So
Post-high competition.
we do. So Jeff, make sure you've been and seen episode 19. We had Jeff White last week, really good episode, and he was good enough to leave with us a giveaway. So it's a set of goalposts from Post High. So what we're going to do to win those, to go into the draw to win those, you need to share episode 19 and then tag a mate who couldn't kick a goal to save himself. So I'll probably share it and tag Dylan. So yeah, get online, find episode 19 with Jeff White on we'll say Facebook, and tag your mate that's couldn't kick a goal.
Couldn't kick for shit.
And then we might get Jeff to pick a winner for next week's pod.
Yep.
Righto. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back next week. Cheers.
All right. Bye.